Hi everyone, it's brilliant to be here today. I've got Seamus Ogilvie from Nectar and Hive, who to me is the world's leading honey guru. So Seamus, welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here. I consider myself more of a honey connoisseur, but really glad that you've called me a honey guru. I just love this product. It is so versatile and got so many attributes.
So tell me about your journey into honey.
Well, I started off in honey. I first saw it when I was cooking. I'm actually a trained chef.
Where did you train?
I trained at Prewleith. I was the first male to go there in 1986.
Seriously, I had no idea.
And I was the first male chalet man. I started off that trend. And I've done sorts of quirky things in my life.
Yeah.
And while I was in Kosovo...
was that in the army?
That was in the army.
Okay.
I volunteered to go to Kosovo and serve in the conflict. Mm-hmm. And I saw honey in Kosovo. But the thing about the Albanians is that they eat honey with every single meal.
Oh my goodness.
Whereas in the UK, we only have honey on our toast.
Sure.
It's slightly boring. And it's at that prompted me to, when I came back and went back in civilian life, to sort of look at the honey industry in a more detailed. And I spent about a year researching honey, and I thought this could be quite big. And at that stage, I did a mini business plan. I had been contacted by the largest apiary in India. And they kept emailing saying, when are you going to buy a container of honey? I didn't really have 50 grand in my back pocket, but I thought this is an opportunity. So.
And what was so special about this honey? Why did they want to market it to the rest of the world?
Well, all honeys have goodness in them, but some honeys have better properties than others, depending on the plant. And that's what I was finding, I was researching. So
is this the plant that the bees feed on?
This is the plant that the bees feed on. So I didn't actually get into Manuka and Yarra honey and all the active honeys until I'd sort of learnt my trade.
Okay.
So I spent 5 years as a trader bringing in honey from India into the UK market, feeding big brands, buying, it was big volume, and then selling it in the UK. I'll tell you a little story about how I got in. I did this mini business plan and I sent it off to my Indian counterparts at the time. I got on a plane, I went to the Punjab on a 4-day visit. And when I arrived, they said, oh, we thought you were coming next week. Oh my God. So I arrived on my last sort of 500 quid and I went to see them. The Indian culture are very notorious to be very hard business people, and they don't talk about money and deals until 5 minutes before you get into the cab. And because I had got on a plane, so all you budding entrepreneurs out there, you've got to get on a plane and go and see your supplier. It's all about knowing your suppliers and building up trust. And I became an agent in the UK for the largest apiary in India. And just to put you into perspective of how the honey world works, India is the 3rd largest producer of honey in the world.
Okay, so the honey in our supermarkets,
yes,
if we had a honey yogurt or honey on the shelf, that's majority of that is from India, is it?
No, you wouldn't know it. Because the UK market generally blend their honey. Now, blending is a very UK sort of thing. It's been going on for a very long time.
What do they blend the honey with?
They blend with other honeys.
Okay.
But to blend, you have to heat treat, and therefore you're killing all the enzymes.
And is that the goodness?
And that's the goodness that you want in honey. It's not wrong, but it's, in my view, not honey. You've manipulated the product. And what I tried to do when I first got into honey is to look for single flower honeys and regional honeys. So where the bee is pollinated on a number of plants within a certain area, or the bee is pollinated on one plant.
Yeah.
And you can never get 100% in the bee world because you can't tell the bee, oh, go and pollinate on there. He'll go where the nectar is.
Absolutely.
That's what bees do. But you can get a certain percentage guaranteed of that particular plant. And that's what I honed in to start with. So I've learnt my trade. I've spent 12 years in the industry. And then I came across an Australian Yarra honey. It just sort of fell into my lap on my travels.
And this is very, very special honey. Have you got some here
Yeah,
to show
I've got
us?
some here. Now, I've got some. These are just some of the best products I've found in the world. Now, you need to understand there is obviously Manuka honey out there from New Zealand. The important things to understand about the active honeys, the active healing honeys or preventative honeys in the marketplace is to understand who you're buying from, who your brands are, and the really important part is I actually get the product packed within the country that I'm buying from.
So instead of what you originally do were to bring vats of honey over to the UK, you now
into the UK. I only pack within the country I'm getting from.
So this
because I want the authenticity and I want the authentication certificate to state that this has been packed within the country.
So this bottle
Yeah.
of honey was packed
In Australia.
in Australia,
In Western Australia.
in Western Australia, in the Jarrah country.
In the Jarrah country.
Wow,
In
that's
the Red Gum
incredible.
country.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you go to Manuka, the market has completely changed in the last 6 months.
So what's happened? What's changed?
Due to fraud.
Gosh.
People mixing honey. And
So they're blending
honey.
watering it down with other honeys.
With other cheaper honeys and then calling it the real thing.
Gosh.
So what the New Zealand government have done, or the New Zealand Honey Board have done, is they have brought in, they've simplified the attributes of the honey. So you will get unique Manuka factor, which is a trademark. This is the real, this is not the real thing, this is a more expensive trademark. And then you've got MGO, methoglyoxal. This is with an attribute within Manuka, which they've only just discovered in the last 5 years.
And what is that? What does it do?
MGO is methoglyoxal.
Okay.
Okay, and there are 5 attributes within Manuka of that are tested. 4 of which are chemical markers, and 1 is pollen.
Okay.
And to have a authenticated bottle of Manuka honey, all honeys packed in New Zealand when they're exported have to have a certificate at export that says MPI to state whether it's a single flower. So anything above 10 plus is single flower Manuka. Anything below 10 plus UMF is a multifloral. And it's distinguishing between the ratios of the unique Manuka factor, or the, as they call, methoglyoxal, because there are 2. One, UMF is a more expensive trademark, and therefore you're going to pay more for your honey. Those who can't afford the trademark have gone down the MGO, the methoglyoxal MGO. Anything that has activity, total activity within Manuka, or superactivity, any other words, is now out the window.
Okay.
It's
so
not
it has
allowed in the UK. They have changed the trade markings of what is good and what is fake.
so it has to have this MGO.
It has to have this MGO because they found in the last 10 years that research that methoglyoxal is an attribute within Manuka. And it's the good stuff as well within that help to kill bacteria.
Exactly. So these are the antibacterial properties that people use, why people use it medicinally, whether it's treating a wound, whether it's for a sore throat or a cough. this is
Exactly.
what.
Now, I like to think that Manuka is more of a prevention honey, because that's why our ladies put it on their faces. Whereas I found this amazing honey in Australia. It only comes from Australia, whereas Manuka comes from Australia and does come from New Zealand. There are 160 different varieties of tea trees in the world, of which one is a Manuka plant.
Okay.
Within the family of tea trees. They're jellybush in Australia and come from the Gold Coast. You've got the true Manuka trees that come from, or bushes that come from New Zealand. There is someone I've heard producing Manuka bushes in Cornwall.
So Manuka is more of a tea tree, whereas what I've been led to believe about Yarra and red gum honey is that it comes from the bees feed off the eucalyptus tree.
That's correct. Now, yes, Yarra and red gum and other honeys are plants that only come from Western Australia. They don't come from anywhere else in the world. And the other thing is that's amazing about these products is the plant only flowers once every 2 years. That makes it really quite rare. And weather has a very major effect. So next year we have no guarantee if there's not been enough rain, because bees need water like we need water. That we have no guarantee that they're going to produce some amazing. So, I mean, just to put you into perspective, the size of the area, you can fit the whole of the UK into the bottom part of Western Australia, into parts of Western Australia. That's how big the area is.
And were you saying earlier when we were chatting that there are no pesticides used in the whole of that area?
Yeah, Western Australia pride in itself of not using pesticides. That it is a state that is pesticide free.
Wow.
And it's very hard to import products into Australia or Western Australia. Very strict.
Because of that. Because they want
to keep it as natural as possible. Now, red gum is a more abundance of a plant tree in Western Australia. We've had these tested by an authenticated testing centre. There are 2 testing centres in Australia. There's one is an independent one, and there's also a government-backed one called the Chem Centre. And they've done a lot of research into what is they've done a lot of research into the antimicrobial properties, which has been found to be higher than Manuka and proven.
Yes, I was reading the papers yesterday, so there's quite a lot on PubMed, and there was one paper which was showing that Yarra honey was able to inhibit candida overgrowth, which is yeast overgrowth. And that was mainly topically, that was the study, but it was very interesting because most people with candida overgrowth really worry about eating sugar or having anything sweet.
No, absolutely. I mean, we're doing quite a lot of research on using Yarra honey for an antifungal, which, believe it or not, I've been reading that 60% of all women in the entire world will have candida at one time of their life.
Oh, that's horrible.
And 40% of men will get it as well. So we're talking huge. And it's all to do with this wonderful plants that I have in Western Australia. So we've got Yarra honey here. We've got a 22 plus. We cannot.
So that's stronger than this one.
That's stronger than this, but has a different. It comes from the different strand of family eucalyptus trees. Okay, they all come from trees. Each tree can grow up to can last up to 1,000 years. So it's very old.
How big are these trees?
They're about 40 meters.
Wow, that's huge.
That's huge. They can also stand the forest fires, but obviously these forest fires are natural, so a lot of trees get burnt down, and it's a very slow growing tree, wood. The wood is used, it has been used certainly under red gum to send to abroad because it's a hardwood. But the plant in itself is amazing. I found some unique honeys that I haven't got in my range that I'm bringing in all the time, or will be bringing in all the time. But apart from these honeys, they're delicious to eat. Now, I'm a fan of runny honey. I prefer runny honey and comb honey. I do like Manuka, but I do find it quite sickly. There's nothing wrong with it. That's my personal taste.
So, Seamus, the reason why I got so excited about this honey was when my kids were little and they had a sore throat or a cough, all I wanted to do was give them honey and lemon, some soothing on their throats. And I found that if I used Manuka, they said it was really yucky. It was sort of almost too medicinal. And when a child's ill, they're very particularly fussy. And then I heard that the Yarra honey was more sort of toffee, butterscotchy flavoured, so I thought we'd give it a go. And they loved it, absolutely loved it. And so with all the sort of medicinal properties and the taste being lovely, it just sort of seemed to be a win-win. So you've brought these new products along today, and I'd love to give it a taste because I just adored the taste of your original ones.
Well, let's open it up. I mean, this is the Red Gum 10 Plus. Let me just tell you about the bottle. The reason why we pack in the amber jar is because sunlight deteriorates honey, this honey.
Is that the activity,
That's
the goodness?
activity, that's the goodness within the honey, the antimicrobial properties. Sunlight will deteriorate over time. That's why we pack in an amber jar, to keep the goodness as long as possible. And we were talking quite a long time, 2 years, but hopefully you would have eaten this within a month.
Probably.
Or even less than that.
Within a
I
week.
would take about two weeks to eat all this. So we have a tamper-proof lid, and then we also have a second seal, tamper-proof. So just,
So it can't
lift
go
it off.
everywhere.
Can't go off. You smell that? It's just really toffee-ish.
Oh my goodness, that is delicious. I can't wait.
Why don't you have a taste? Now, if we can show the camera, this is
Do you see? It's just sort of yellow and gooey. There we go, look at that. Dip it in. Oh my goodness, look at that lovely yellow goo. That looks absolutely amazing.
It's got this really light toffee-ish flavour. And when it hits the back of your throat, it just melts down the throat. I think it's a really good one to start for kids. A really good one to start.
It's a really
for kids.
mild taste.
Really
it's
mild
lovely.
taste.
You could put that out with anything in a
and
smoothie
anything.
or.
It's what we use as our everyday honey. Okay. The key thing about honeys, which I want to get across to people, you should be eating honey every day, not just when you get a cold or before you get a cold, because you've already got the infection. You want to be trying to. You want to have honey in your diet every day, every morning or every night. I found out some research the other day that if you have a spoonful of honey before you go to bed, it helps your gut, because everything's about gut health now, and cleansing your gut. And this is a perfect product for that.
When I was doing the research for my book, The Good Stuff, I discovered that honey builds the microbiome, so builds the good gut flora in your gut. So,
yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah,
it's another area that I'm sort of still learning on. And the one thing about honey I found in the last 10 years, I learn something new every day about honey.
About the wonders
and
of
about
honey.
the plants. And you can do so much exploration on the internet. There's lots of information, but just be careful where you go and get your source from.
So this was absolutely delicious. Now tell me more about this one, because this is the Yarra honey.
Well, it's a higher testing rate. It's got 22 plus.
So that's double the strength of this.
Double the strength of this. I tend to use this for healing ulcers.
You mean mouth ulcers?
Mouth ulcers.
Or skin ulcers?
Sores. Or if I actually have got a cold, I will start eating this.
Okay.
It's a little bit more. It's more expensive because of the higher total active.
Sure.
And it's still got the higher antimicrobial properties.
And I'm guessing it's rarer than this.
It's rarer than this.
Yeah, okay.
This only flowers every 2 years, and there's less of it. And we won't know, the apiarist won't know. He'll know where all the where to put the bees each year, but he won't know until he brings it in and tests it, whether it's got 22 plus, 10 plus, and then be able to grade his honey. Because all batches are graded.
Seamus, that was absolutely fascinating. So much brilliant information. I would really like to give this a taste now because it looks absolutely
Wow.
incredible.
Let me get it. Here's a little booklet of the authenticity.
Great. And then
And
this
then
is another amber
This
jar.
is another amber jar. And with a second feel. Mm-hmm. Now we've got the actual taste. This is, the smell is even it's slightly stronger.
Yeah, just a little bit, but not
little bit,
much.
yeah, but
Not
it's
off-putting at all.
little darker,
Look at this.
and it's got much
Wow.
more of a toffier taste, much stronger. I just got to have some. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Guys, you want to have this neat.
It's
It's just-
that is
you know,
heaven. That's
it's like
absolute
treacle.
heaven.
I'd
I'd love to put that on porridge or...
I
Dip.
put that in my smoothies.
Now, the most exciting thing is this gold box here, and I want to know more about this.
Well, this is extremely rare. It's taken me 5 years to find an apiarist who make honeycomb. That not make the bees make honeycomb. Not many people. I've only found 2 suppliers in the world that produce this amazing honeycomb within a frame. So it's gold, guys. And I've got a
Look at this
little
beautiful box.
booklet about the honey. Well, this is Red Gum 30 Plus. This is 3 times more powerful than the Red Gum 10 Plus because of the antimicrobial properties within the honey.
And it's a comb honey
This
rather
is
than a
comb
runny
honey.
honey.
This is as pure as you can get it. This is how an Aborigine would, or a local would eat it, straight from the hive. Now the important thing is the bees have made the honey within the frame. And the
Okay.
frame is then taken out of the beehive and put straight into a container. No humans have touched this. This is untouched by humans and as rare as you can get.
So that has come straight from the jungle, straight from a beehive,
Yeah,
into a box,
Into a
and
box.
to the UK.
into the UK, and we're the only people in Europe selling it.
So it's as authentic and natural and raw
Yeah.
and pure and as antimicrobial as you can possibly
You
get.
get, and this is why it is quite expensive.
So how much is it?
This is £175.
Ooh, that is a lot of money.
It's
but
a
I
lot
can
of money.
see why.
Honey is going a bit like fine wine.
Mm-hmm.
The rarer you get, the higher the antimicrobial property testing and the total activity, and that's something that you can't get hold of tomorrow. I have no guarantee I will get a 30 plus next year. I hope I will, but the beekeeper will put his bees onto the trees next year in the new season. Don't forget, Australia's summer is our winter, so December, January this year, and he won't know until he goes and tests it. So weather has a very important factor. We all need water, so do bees.
Sure. But let's have a go.
Let's
This
have a
looks
taste of it. Look at this.
absolutely
Oops.
incredible.
Oh, they've broken it. But look at that. Wow.
Oh
and you
my
eat
goodness.
this as it is. I put this
I
on.
can't believe that I'm going to eat something quite so amazing.
I would
like
have this neat.
Wow.
Now what I've done, I burnt my at a show. I burnt my hand, my palm, of my hand, with steam while I'm boiling a kettle, and I got a really big blister. So I put this immediately on top.
Okay, this
I
is
layered it,
particular
literally.
comb.
I layered it on. 10 minutes later, the sting had gone. 2 hours later, the blister had gone down.
Wow.
And then I kept layering it on for about, putting new stuff on. And then 2 weeks later, my hand was back to normal.
That is incredible because I know for a long time they've used honey for wound healing, haven't they?
They have.
Even in the NHS, they use it. And a friend of mine whose mum was caught up in that awful tsunami disaster, cut her leg very badly, got very badly infected, and I believe that honey was used in the wraps to try and sort of
Yeah.
clear the infection. But this is probably the strongest, most powerful honey you can get for something like that. So
Absolutely. And I stress this, it is the caviar of all honey. And it's
tastes
taken me
amazing
5
too.
years to find someone who the apis will make, will put the frames within the hive, but the bees have actually made the comb honey within 5 years. It hasn't been cut up by
No.
the apis. This is about as pure as you get. And this is what a local would eat his honey.
Yeah. So Seamus, this has been such an inspiring chat. Thank you so much for coming along. I've learned more about honey than I ever expected.
Thank you so much for having me along. It's a great pleasure to show some of Nectar and Hive's rare and unique products to you.
Seamus, I've had a really good idea. Why don't you come back here soon and we'll have an afternoon in the kitchen cooking up some amazing honey recipes together.
That sounds such a great idea. I can't wait to come along and create some of my recipes in my young days, but I've got some great ideas to how to use my wonderful honey and unique honeys. Brilliant. Let's
Great.
make a date.
That'd be really, really good fun. So guys, this has been such an inspiring and fascinating chat today, and I hope that you've really enjoyed it as much as I have, and hope to see you again soon.